Yeah, good afternoon. After a very long, epic movie, larger than life movie, this perhaps you'll find a very welcome change. Something which you see day to day in Delhi, in Mumbai, in Tehran, or any other city of the world. This story will be equally valid. And you can uh, really see what you see around you, the next corner, the next house, your house. You can identify with the whole narrative and the movie itself. Uh, Before Anna is a Iranian movie, as you know, and Iran, as of now, there is a stereotype, uh, image which most of the people around the world, especially western part of the world, even otherwise in Asia, people carry about Iran. Therefore, just a couple of lines I'll put my perspective on Iran. As you know, it's a very, very ancient civilization, very rich culture, arts, music, uh, all kind of commodities which they used to produce at some point of time, be it carpets or anything Persian, was really something extraordinary. And they had a very rich heritage in all respects, including their language Parsi. Even after it fell to Sikandar, even after Islamic invasion came and Islam came, and on today's date, it is Islamic country. But still, if you get to the bottom of the history of, even contemporary history of Iran, you will find that still more than 50% people first language is Persian. Almost balanced 50% people, they have second language is Persian, but they are fluent in Persian. They learn as a second language, but they can speak Persian. Uh, and therefore, you can see, despite 8, 9 ethnic communities being there, the language which they speak is Persian. If you see their all writings, all poetry, literature, everything, if you see, you will find the accents of the entire countries is Persian. But if you go for the theatrics, for the stereotype images, for the political narrative, you will find Islam or religion being the face of it. But there, in 50s, let us say if the population, 25% population was in metro cities, now it is 75%. And majority of them are very literate, intellectually very high, and that is how you see that 1980, onwards, or 79 onwards, their movies, I mean, if you had a French wave, if you had an Italian neorealistic cinema wave, if you had German expressionism, then this is the late 20th century has belonged to Iran. The kind of cinema they came out with surprised the most in the world, and even the worst critics in the western part of the world, they agree to one thing, that Iranians make very good movies. Now, how can they reach the world community if they don't have the sensibilities, if they do not have a universal language, if they do not have a universal narrative? In fact, obviously around 80, 79, the censorship was very high, very repressive there. But still, with all those limitations, if they could really produce such nice quality of cinema, then they must be intellectually be very good, and they must be having an understanding of universal language. This cinema also, now if I, therefore you see this movie in context, and what actually Asghar Farhadi in this movie is trying to convey is the same thing. Please don't judge by how we are being ruled. Please don't judge us from political angle. Politics may change, the rulers may change. You judge Iran by the people. And that is what he has tried to, in a very subtexted way, convey to the world by large. by saying that, I'm not saying that he doesn't have a story, he doesn't have a cinematic narrative for his own people, but because the censorship is very high there, this movie is having one direct narrative. If you want to enjoy a direct narrative, it has enough of it. It is on its own pretty entertaining, pretty relevant. But if you want to search subtext in it, then there is a lot of subtext in it. The characters, if you symbolically see that, is this character representing the present Sikh Iran? Is this character looks like people who are trying to be progressive and running away from the country to western part of the world? Do some characters want to stay back because they belong to Iran and they say that we want to be here, we will fight within the system and improve our country, we are not going away anywhere. And then you have also some characters who might be killed, who do not have enough senses to understand what choices they have and they should go for. They are stuck. And therefore those subtexts, if you want to read in this movie, there is a parallel story going on, which for obvious reasons Asghar Farhadi cannot really bring into tone, language, direct narrative, and that is his problem. But he has managed to achieve both, and that is why this movie got the first Iranian Oscar for the foreign language, when everything is about Iran is not good in America, and second Oscar for the salesman he got very recently in 17 or 18, for which he didn't really accept that award because of the ban put on the Iranians to enter America. Now, talking of the cinematic language of Asghar Farhadi, his choice of story is social story, a story which can happen next door. He likes to produce drama, but he likes to produce drama with all subtleties and neorealism, which a director, Japanese director like Ozu used to do. He has a lot of resemblance in style. In fact, his inspirations were De Sica, Ingmar Bergman, Tarkovsky, Fellini, these kind of directors who were involved in neorealistic cinema or realistic cinema. And therefore his narrative is also, though there is a drama, but there is a lot of documentary approach, a subtle approach to the whole thing. And where he makes difference from other Iranian producer directors is that the drama which he chooses is changing very fast, and this trajectory is changing very fast. Therefore the pace in his movies is very high. In fact, I'll even go on to say that it's very Hitchcockian pace, and in fact you'll find the movie very unlike other Iranian movies because of his pace as well. The other thing about him is he brings a lot of conflict in his movies. The intensity of conflict is huge, and the intensity can start with between husband and wife, matrimonial life. It can then go to conflict in the society, class conflict, religion conflict, political conflict, and before you have thought about one conflict which is there on the screen, the other conflict comes on the screen, and then the third and then the fourth, and therefore the trajectory keeps changing. And ultimately what he does is that the conflict he takes to the person, to the individual. It can be a conflict between husband and wife, it can be conflict between classes. But he has shown through all his characters in this movie is that individually, ultimately the conflict is within you, and you have to deal with it. Now how you deal with it, and you deal with it moral authority. That is, at least he says that being an Iranian, I say that we deal with individual conflict with moral authority. And that is the message he has in a way again given to the outside world. Please judge us, we are people like you. we also have conflicts of all kind within our country. You may have some other conflict, you may have some other conflict. Every country has conflict, every individual, every society has conflict. But please, we are nothing different. We are people like you. So ultimately, he takes it to the individual how you are resolving the conflict. And in fact, some of the quotes I took from him, and you can see that itself tells that how he feels, what he wants to make. And lastly, see, doing interviews about films really bother me sometimes because I have to speak directly and clearly about things I've kept ambiguous. In a way, I feel like I'm betraying my films. That is his problem. He cannot give frank interviews. As I said, there is a lot of subtexting stuff which is there. Technically speaking, in his movies, if you find, technically the cinematography which he keeps is something between Ozu, the Japanese famous director, who used to keep, medium distance shots, not very wide angle shots, not too many close-ups. And his setup of the camera is such that he is able to transport you there. You are a witness to, fourth wall in a way he tries to remove. In fact, in this movie, the very opening shot, if you will see, there is no fourth wall at all. You are the judge, and there is a court scene going on, and it directly comes to you, and it says, judge. So that is the kind of his camera style is. He tries to remove the fourth wall, and he keeps the mid-distance shots in a manner that you feel that you are there, watching there. You are the witness to everything which is happening, and you are part of the set where it has been shot. As far as music is concerned, he doesn't believe in music. He doesn't believe in the music in the sense that he says that I do not want to reduce the intensity of the conflict by taking help of music. What I would like is accumulate all the conflicts, all the intensity, and when the movie is over, I would like to release all that intensity and play some music. So that is his approach towards music, which is very, very different from most of the directors, I will say. So that he has learned a lot from silent cinema. That is where he has learned a lot from likes of Tchaikovsky, Russian director, and Ingmar Bergman. But while saying that, I must say that he might have taken inspiration from all these directors, but he has a very, very original style. I must say that of all the movies, recent movies I have watched, and the directors I have tried, new directors, I think he has really impressed me a lot. His camera style, one more I am saying that his camera follows the action, follows the characters as they move, and as if the camera is attached just opposite them and is moving. Is a style which Fassbinder, the German famous director, also used to. I'm not saying he has copied from him, but they resemble in their approach. With all this, I'll say, I'm sure this movie will go beyond your expectation. Enjoy your movie. Thank you very much.
Thank you.